So, Matt, to give everyone some context, you're the director of research for New Jersey, and I know that you've been looking at how some prior disasters and crises have hit that region. And as you're analyzing data from these past recessions, specifically looking at how that's affected the migration of office and residential from New York City into the suburbs, what kinds of lessons and trends do you think that we can apply to what we're experiencing today?
I think one of the first things you see is overreaction. That usually occurs at the outset of disasters, and drastic measures are usually taken. And what happens is savvy commercial real estate owners and brokers, they seize the opportunities. But as time goes by, return to normalcy usually means a return home. That sort of occurred after 9/11 here in the New York area, where companies who set up locations in New Jersey, a lot of them did in fact go back to the city, and that began a rebound for downtown markets. Right now, though, I think the timing might be right for a return to the suburbs, which was already beginning to trend before COVID-19, as millennials are starting families and Generation Z might have some trepidations about being in congested areas. Workers will still want the amenities that they got from being in those downtown areas, but they'll also want to be cognizant of having private space areas, and they might prefer to drive also because of the need for space and feel safer versus taking mass transit.
Mm.
Not to mention there's low gas prices, so that might also encourage them to rather be in their cars. Although I think recently popularized and vibrant transit markets in New Jersey, like Morristown, Summit, and Westfield, they should continue to thrive because they offer the option to access train lines should commuters want to do that. But so it seems consequential, though, at this time that the changing dynamic of the workplace is going to be in concert with the changing lifestyles of our younger generations. Developers who've been aggressive in investing capital recently and modernizing, and in some cases reviving, these suburban facilities and campuses. They provide downtown-like amenities, and they're in a position to really enjoy the fruits of this potential migration to the suburbs. Because no matter where they are, the growing millennial and Generation Z workforce, they'll demand that everything is at their fingertips and at their footsteps. So you're going to need those amenities to entice them to come, but they've been building them the last couple of years, and I think now they're ready to benefit from that.
I completely agree with that from a placemaking perspective. And I'm wondering though, if this is that sort of immediate reaction and ultimately people will want to return to downtown markets.
I think the return of tenants to New York City in the mid and later 2000s, that coincided with older millennials entering the workforce. In
Mm.
fact, at that time, 75% of growth in the New York City metro area was in the urban markets. But now that older millennials are in their 30s, some of them in their late 30s, starting to have families, in the last couple of years, they've already started to migrate back to the suburbs.
Mm.
As for the younger generation entering the workforce, Generation Z, the coronavirus pandemic is like their first scare.
Mm.
And they were just babies and toddlers during 9/11 and too young, really, in 2009 at that time to understand the economic and maybe even more so the socioeconomic impact of the global financial crisis.
Mhm.
The difference with Generation Z is that they, unlike any other generation, has had so much access to information, especially with the exposure and targeted content from social media, that they might be more hesitant to congregate in a
Mm.
densely populated urban area. They just might not feel safe doing that for a while.